Запрошуємо до слова. Good morning. We start our work and give the floor to spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense, Maksym Prauta, with updates about Ministry's activities over the last days. Good morning, dear guests. Here is brief information about the latest events which took place in the Ministry of Defense. To implement the roadmap of reform, the Ministry of Defense continues work in legal field. The Ministry has prepared four presidential orders and more than 40 provisions of the Cabinet of Ministers to implement the reforms. These documents have the aim to improve defense capacity of the state, ensure reform in the Ministry of Defense, in the General Staff, and other military authorities. They deal also with creation of special operation forces and high mobile paratroop forces, with response to pressing needs of the army, with defining the responsible for defense on the land, in air, in sea, and on the land throughout the territory, with improvement of social and legal guarantees for the servicemen, for ensuring better food for the army, etc. Within the framework of these measures, there is sufficient progress. Since the start of this year, the Ministry introduced 150 standards of collective and individual training and introduced a united database and guidelines for the armed forces. Since the start of this year, there were more than 300 events training events for 7 brigades and regiments, and 28 units of the armed forces of Ukraine had training according to NATO standards, with participation of trainers from the armed forces of Canada, of the United Kingdom, USA, Lithuania, and Poland. Since the start of this year, more than 1,200 Ukrainian servicemen instructors, trainers, were trained according to NATO standards. And 22 complex simulators of planes, tanks, and infantry fighting vehicles were introduced in military high schools. Ukrainian citizens continue to join contract service in the army. Since the start of this year, more than 17,000 persons signed contract with the army, and 1,200 of them are officers. In total, there are more than 120,000 contract servicemen in the army at present. The operational reserve of persons liable to conscription is more than 130,000 persons. In 2015-2016, the Ministry of Defense continues to ensure accommodation for the servicemen, and in this period, 2,836 families of servicemen and reserve servicemen received accommodation, including and 635 families received compensation as the Ministry was unable to provide accommodation for them. Moreover, the Ministry has started a pilot project on construction of a residential house for the servicemen of Marine Forces. This is a residential house for 80 families and built in with improved accommodation for 348 persons. To implement the priority action plan of the government in 2017, the Ministry of Defense has worked on provision of the Cabinet of Ministers about salaries for the servicemen. According to this document, there will be a new principle of calculation of salary that will enter in force since January 2018. According to it, the salary of the servicemen will depend on the current subsistence rate for working persons, and this will ensure the increase of salary as soon as the subsistence rate will be increased. Moreover, the salaries of the servicemen will be increased by 60%, and prices for the servicemen will be increased also by 60%. At present, the draft of this provision is discussed with the Ministry of Finances. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine agreed with the proposal of the civil society to make a part of a training field Tarutin in Odessa region, a national park, Tarutinsky Steppe. To make this possible, the Ministry of Defense addressed to the Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources of Ukraine with a proposal to make a part of this land plot. This is 6,000 hectares, a national park. However, the decision of Odessa Regional Council to create a national park on this territory, which was made in 2012, was not made in accordance with the current legislation. And in order to make this territory a national park, in compliance with the national legislation, the Ministry of Defense started a court action, and the court hearings will take place on September 19th this year. The ministry has not changed its position on the issue. Civil-military cooperation groups in the conflict zone in the east of Ukraine continue to help civilians and to carry humanitarian cargoes. The civilians from Troitska village asked CIMIC groups for help, and the servicemen from Popasna Civil-Military Cooperation Group coordinated repairing works to repair power lines in this village. 8 power towers were repaired, and as a result, now civilians have electricity. And officers from Civil-Military Cooperation Group Volnovakha, together with the policemen and workers of State Emergency Service, arrived to village Blizhny to respond to a fire in the field. They successfully solved the issue. And CIMIC Group Bakhmut delivered bread to villages of Zaitsevo area. And the servicemen of CIMIC Group Shastya delivered humanitarian aid to families from villages Peredilske and Stary Aidar. This is all information for today. Thank you.